Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Cohen, as lots of economists are now predicting recession or even worse, as Donald Trump continues to, what's he calling April 2nd now, the Liberation Day, where he says he's going to give each country an envelope and they're going to open it up on Liberation Day and they're going to get a number. They're going to get a number. It's kind of like what's it like when you're going to medical school, or when they tell you where you're gonna, which school you got into, or which fraternity?
I was thinking more like Deal or No Deal. One of the girls is going to open up a suitcase and give you a number.
That's probably a better example. You open up the envelope and then your country gets a number, and then that's your tariff, depending on how nice you are to Donald Trump. I'm not making this up. So Trump was vacationing in Mar-a-Lago again this weekend. He was golfing. He claimed he won his own golf tournament again for the 7th straight year. He returns to Washington, D.C., and as he's returning, he does all of the most like dictator stuff yet, like invokes the Alien Enemies Act and says that we're in a war with Venezuela, and thus he needs these, extraordinary war powers. It's only been invoked in the War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. He says that he's going to be voiding unilaterally, which he has no authority to do, the pardons by former President Biden, because he says there's an auto pen conspiracy and the auto pen signed it and not former President Biden, which is total BS. Then he goes to the Kennedy Center, where he appoints himself the chairman. And he knows that if he went to the Kennedy Center on his own, he would get booed the same way J.D. Vance was booed. I think like ticket sales are down 60% at the Kennedy Center. All of the plays and acts are mostly kind of canceling at this point. So he goes there, and then he does this like Mussolini photo op to an empty auditorium because he wanted that look. Like, and Cohen, this was the look he wanted. I mean, whether it was directly to do the move, that's the dictator look, and he's seen that before, and so he does that. Let me just show you how how pathetic it is. I'm going to show you that it's an empty auditorium, and this is what it looked like when he was actually staging this. We have the footage here. Play this clip.
So you want a little picture like this?
Perfect.
Go ahead. Are you guys ready? Come on.
We're good, sir.
Sir, if you want to speak to us later, too, when we're closer, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you, press. Right this way.
Thank you.
Pleasure, Doug.
Thank you, sir.
And Cohen passed his prologue, and one of the things that you and I would always point out about his sick pathology, disgusting pathology, is that this is what he would do. Remember the Midas Touch Network, our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, put that montage together during the campaign where he would wave to nobody, or he would wave at crowds, not the crowd cheering for him. So he'd go to stadiums and he'd pretend they were cheering him on, and then corporate media would run with it. Here was the montage that we made, like, what was it, 6 months ago or so? Here, play it.
See you later.
Cohen.
Is there anything really that even I could possibly say about that? Clearly, what goes on is, the guy who's running the social media, Dan Scavino, who started out as a caddy, who ultimately then became the general manager of Trump National, Briarcliff, ultimately then to get fired, ultimately then to come to me and to ask if he could run Trump's social media in 2015. I get him back into the office. Lo and behold, he's still there. And at the end of the day, what are they doing? They're saying, okay, here's what we want you to do. We want you to get up into that box area, stand up there, put your hands up. We're going to take a picture and we're going to blow it up and we're going to show it, right? We could artificially include in through AI, a roaring crowd and so on. We can use it. It'll be great footage for an ad that we're going to ultimately put out on Truth Social or X or any of the other platforms that, he gets no pushback on. Thank goodness for groups like Midas Touch Network, who actually happen to get a hold of the complete footage, not the individual piece that gets put out by the media spin of the Trump administration, but rather the whole thing, so that you can see what goes on in the background. The waving to nobody, the waving to the air, to the moon, to the sun, right? To the Secret Service that got him there, and so on, right? I mean, this is unfortunate. The world that we are living in right now, we are living in like this Kardashian reality world where what anybody in the past would have done would have not just gotten you booted from a presidential campaign, but would have gotten you placed into a straitjacket and thrown right into Bellevue. All right. Instead, they now laugh at this. They now see this as some sort of an act of defiance that, they make stuff up in order to pump up something that is illogical. It's nonsensical. It's beyond ridiculous. It's shameful, and it's embarrassing. But lo and behold, not this MAGA group. No, Ben. This MAGA group sees this as reality. They see this as Donald Trump fighting the establishment for them.
Yes, I've described it as we're non-consenting participants in a dystopian reality TV show of Donald Trump's making. And, we wake up every day and it's like, oh, is he going to attack Zelensky today? Is today he's going to talk about Liberation Day with the tariffs? Is he going to invoke some 1798 law? Is today the day where the markets crash another 2%? Or does he not talk about tariffs and then it rebounds a little only to kind of crash again? Is today the episode where he talks once again about, conquering Canada? And look, our allies, or I guess former allies at this point, are fed up. I mean, the international community sees him for what he is. And don't get me wrong, they know that he controls still the strongest military in the world, but they see the fake deals and the BS negotiation that he's always looking to for the drama, and they're just done with it. I mean, you saw the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. He went to his first visit, not the U.S., which it would always be, right? It would always be a Canada first visit to the U.S. with the new Prime Minister. Went to who he said are his reliable allies, Europe. Went to Emmanuel Macron in France, and then went to the UK and met with Prime Minister Keir Starmer. They're already talking about in Canada and Portugal and elsewhere also not renewing their purchases of the F-35 aircraft and just saying, maybe we'll buy them from, the France version or somewhere else. Like, why would we support the United States with any of this? And while all of this is going on, Cohen, this is the area I want to talk to you up front, though, because, you were thrown into solitary confinement in the most dehumanizing conditions, for which you still suffer from PTSD as a result of being thrown in. How big was your cell? Like 5 feet by 5
feet? No,
feet?
8 by 10.
8 by 10. Nothing in there for, was it 50, 55 days, 56 days?
51 days. However, don't forget, I got a 6-year sentence. So I was supposed to do 3 at the satellite camp, where I did 13 months and then 15 days in the bad side behind the barbed wire, in the real facility. For 51 days with no movement. It's not like Shawshank Redemption where you're out in the yard for an hour, you're shooting hoops. None of that. It was 51 days in a cell, nothing, right? The only reason I was able to ultimately get a radio is because a guy who was on the bad side who was getting out, gave it to a guard who was very, very kind. He was a Michael supporter, and he ultimately just opened up the door to the cell, the little metal slot that they would serve you the food, and he handed it to me. He was a really super great guy by the name of Robert. I actually bumped into him once on Madison Avenue. Really nice guy. He got out, but he gave me his radio when he was leaving. Otherwise, I would have had nothing. And that I didn't get until like, day 20. So it was just reading, sitting, sit-ups, push-ups, whatever you can do to pass a second, which feels like a minute, and a minute feels like an hour, and an hour feels like a day, and a day feels like a week.
Just to remind people, they had you show up. They wanted an amendment basically to your terms of release where you would sign a non-disclosure agreement.
No, Ben. They had me show up at 500 Pearl Street to sign what's called a federal location monitoring agreement. It is a standard form that every inmate who is out ends up signing. Here's the interesting thing. Mine was not legit. Mine was actually one that they created specifically for me, which of course is illegal. That doesn't contain a federal ID number to it. And the very first paragraph was the most violative First Amendment restriction, where I could not publish a book. That was my first book, Disloyal, that I could not speak to the media, friends, family, could not speak to the media. I can't post anything. I can have no association with the outside world. And the reason that they gave, which of course is ridiculous, is that it should not glorify felons.
Well, I always want to remind people of your story because, people's memories sometimes are short, and you stood up to Donald Trump at a time where he was kind of in the peak of his power during the first Trump administration. And you could have, like mostly everybody else, went along, got the pardon. You'd be back right now.
I'd probably be on Fox News with my own television show. That's probably where it was, trying to continue to spin the narrative that every single Republican, every single, acolyte of Trump's or these enablers of Trump are all spewing. Ben, here, join me for a second on this screen. Imagine if you ask me, hey, Michael, how was your cup of coffee? And I turn around and I give you the answer, going right down the Trump list of things that all surrogates are to say. Donald Trump is the great. You asked me, how's your coffee? Right? And I said, Donald Trump is the greatest president ever. He is the smartest, the handsomest, the richest president. He is the greatest negotiator. And that's why our cost of coffee is going to be substantially less than ever before, because he is the best negotiator in the history of the United States. In all 249 years, only Donald Trump could negotiate coffee such as this. And then you sit there and you're like, where'd that answer come from? Because you need to hit every single talking point when you are a surrogate. Just look at, what's his name? Scott Jennings, right, on CNN. It doesn't matter what the question is. He goes right for it. If Trump was president of the United States going back when Biden won in 2020, there never would be a war. Well, how do you know that, right? What crystal ball do you have? A time machine that if you went back that it would never be there? They make these bold statements and then so many people say it over and over and over. And as you showed that picture of Stalin, this is a Stalin tactic. It's a tactic. The more you repeat the lie, the more the lie becomes the truth.
I'll show you this clip of Alina Habba, for example, one of Trump's surrogates. Their talking points today was attack Judge Boasberg. He's the chief judge in Washington, D.C. He was previously in Washington, D.C., the chief FISA judge. So he dealt with foreign intelligence and highly classified information. He was the chief judge of FISA and now the chief judge in Washington, D.C. And he was the judge who issued the ruling when Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act, saying to the Trump regime, we need a 14-day pause before you start sending people who you claim are gang members to concentration camps in El Salvador, because this is still the United States of America and people should get due process. If people are engaged in criminal conduct or involved in gangs or not here lawfully or whatever you're trying to say, well, you can prove that first with evidence rather than just claiming that there's a fake war going on between the United States and Venezuela and then invoking War Powers Act. And then we can talk about what the remedy is going to be. And the remedy may be, you know, if it's someone here who committed a crime and they're from Venezuela and you send them back to Venezuela or you deport them. But sending people who are here without evidence, without process, to concentration camps in El Salvador, where they're never to be heard from again in that authoritarian styled regime right there, by the way.
That we're paying for $6 million.
Well, Cohen, the entire GDP, you know, Trump acts like El Salvador is like, El Salvador, that's who the rich, that's who's doing it right. The GDP in El Salvador, full GDP is $30 billion a year. $30 billion.
I think it's less than Connecticut.
Yeah. I mean, it is $30 billion a year. And who does Trump look down upon? Like Canada, which is basically a $3 trillion GDP. The United States GDP before Donald Trump was like $34 trillion. And by the way, we've got a lot of prisons in the United States too. We have laws that are supposed to deal with gang members and things, and there's a process for it. But Trump sucks up to Nayib Bukele because he makes these like ISIS-style propaganda videos, and that's what they are. They're like ISIS-style videos. And then the White House is posting these videos, and then while attacking Judge Boasberg and saying that he shouldn't have issued this injunction, we're saying 14-day pause is what Boasberg said. 14-day pause, slow it down.
Hey,
And
Ben,
let's see what's...
Can I jump in here for one quick sec? Because I want people to understand that neither Ben nor I want to see these individuals who are truly the murderers, the gang members, and so on, who are illegal. We're not saying that they should stay in this country. What we're saying is that our country, what makes America so great, so special, is that there is something called due process here. This isn't like Russia, where Vladimir Putin could take the gavel himself and say guilty, 10 years hard labor, or being placed into a gulag for the rest of your life. We have due process. Nobody is saying here that we want these criminals to stay, these criminals who are here illegally on top of that. That's not what we're saying. We're just saying that we have something called the Constitution, and without protecting even those people who are guilty, who should be deported, we're giving up our own rights, something that I have been yelling about literally for over 5 years. For 5 years, that the unconstitutional remand of me, the violation of my First Amendment constitutional rights, how many times have those of you that follow heard me say that if he could do it to me, that he will come and he will do it to you? That's exactly what's going on right now, because it's not just these El Salvadorians, it's not just Venezuelans, it's not just migrants from Mexico and so on. It's the press, it's everyone, it's students that are coming in with illegal protests. This is all in order to erode the First Amendment of the Constitution.
Well, then they go, these people are terrorists. They're enemy combatants. These are the most violent of the violent people. Okay, then it should be easy. Then show the evidence of the crimes that they committed and then bring them to justice. I'm with you, Cohen. We all agree. Bring the bad guys to justice. One of the things that former President Biden tried to do was enhance not just the border protection, but also enhance the crackdown on people who are engaged in criminal conduct through lawful means. And Donald Trump told the Republicans to kill that bill because he wanted to run on chaos at the border. He said it was a winning issue for him. So for me, we're already hearing the stories out there from family members who are now seeing a dad, an uncle, a nephew who got lost now in the El Salvador system. Now, the family members are saying these are not gang members. My dad worked in a barber shop and he was just here trying to get asylum. Now, look, Cohen, everybody, family members lie. It doesn't mean that they're telling the truth. And these people could be gang members. But the point we're making is one that underpins our system, which is that, okay, you don't just look at someone's tattoo and say, you're MS-13 or you're Tren de Aragua, and now you die. And now you go into concentration camps. Because if that is where you go, first they came for them, and then they came for them, and then they come for you, and then they call you a terrorist or you're an enemy. Think about what they did in Guantanamo Bay recently, right? They shut down their Guantanamo facility, but they told everybody, Cohen, these were the most violent Tren de Aragua people in Guantanamo. Turned out nonviolent migrants in Guantanamo, and they shut it down. And those people then went to Louisiana. Now, rather than sending them to Guantanamo, they're sending them to Nayib Bukele's El Salvador. And this is the video that they're making. And they were playing this on Fox over and over again. And the frame was, we've got the terrorists. We got the bad guys. We got the bin Ladens. And I'm like, that's not who these people are. And if these people are, and by the way, those terrorists in a case called Hamdan versus Rumsfeld, dealing with Guantanamo Bay in a 5-3 Supreme Court decision, said even you had to have, with terrorists, not gang members, terrorists, you had to have military commissions that provided some sort of process consistent with the Geneva Conventions. Courts made those decisions decades ago. So to me, when Caroline Levitt posts, the American people voted for this, this is what they voted for? No, they didn't. They voted for lower prices and to have affordable housing. And then here's the video. I'm only going to show a clip of it, but I look at this video, and if this video makes you proud to be American, then I just think that that's sickening to me. Play it.
Easy!
So Cohen, America's doing like ISIS style videos now. I mean, that's what the regime is doing.
It appears so. And the saddest part is that MAGA, they enjoy this. They enjoy the brutality of it all. You know, if they would beat somebody over the head with a crowbar, it would make MAGA so happy. Donald Trump is strong. Look what they're doing. They took that motherfucker's beard and they just shaved it right off, and they stripped him down into his underwear and shaved his head. You know, this is American strength. This is to tell them, you don't come to our country, right? You go someplace else, right? That Donald Trump is saving America, and he's doing it. He's doing it all under national security. And a lot of people are forgetting the reason why. They keep talking about national security. They keep talking about national security because the Supreme Court of the United States said that Trump has complete and total presidential immunity if, in fact, it is done for the country, if it is done for national security. Therefore, Ben, the fact that if he wanted to go after anyone, whether it's a school teacher as they deported, whether it's going to be a podcaster, whether it's going to be a meteorologist, he will claim national security. And then he's going to say he has the right to determine, as president of the United States, what is in the best interest of national security. That is the job of the chief executive.
And so while you have these horrific headlines about how he's, destroying the economy here, let me try to pull up some of the headlines today. This becomes a distraction, and he goes back, Cohen, into fight the judge mode, right? Like, everyone's coming after me, play the victim mode. And he kind of goes into his little orange turtle shell, right? Like that's his move, is now that everyone's coming after me. I'm a victim. Wow, 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 wow. He's very comfortable. He's a horrible deal maker. He's not a builder. He's a destroyer. You know, everything, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. But what he is good at, which to me is not a good quality, is he plays the victim, and they're coming after me. Oh my God, they're coming. The deep state, I need your help. I need your help. I need your money. You got to help me. You got to help me. That's what he has perfected, perhaps better than anybody in history. And it's like, just the weirdest, most loser quality. And the fact that it psychologically works on people's wild. So
it definitely is working on people. It is working on the American people.
They're coming after us. Look what we're trying to do. There are these terrorists, and we sent the Tren de Aragua. Right. And how could you be against this? Are the Democrats or the people, you don't want us to get rid of terrorists?
Right? Are you saying that you want these terrorists who took over full buildings in Colorado, and that they're raping people and robbing people, and that they're all violent drug dealer gangs and so on? Clearly, the answer is no. But can I tell you something, Ben? You know what makes me sadder than anything here? The thing that really disappoints me the most? Democrats' favorability right now is less than that of Donald Trump's. Yeah, imagine that. The guy is wrecking our economy. He's fighting with all our allies. He's extorting Ukraine, right? He's cozying up to our adversaries. Nothing that he promised other than the 1,600 pardons for the January 6th defendants has been done so far. And yet his popularity remains higher than that of the Democratic Party. Imagine what a shit job that we are doing.
I had the opportunity to interview Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky. Everybody should go and watch that interview after Political Beatdown. It's a really good interview. But he is a Democratic governor in a state that went plus 33 for Donald Trump in the 2024 election. Now, when you speak to Governor Beshear, Cohen, he's not trying to be MAGA light or trying to be, a version of a Republican. Here's a guy who says, I'm standing up for LGBTQ plus rights. He goes, I don't bully people. Those aren't my values. And he fights for the people. And I had this incredible conversation with him, and I was left feeling, whoa, this guy's the real deal. And I think the issue outside of people like Andy Beshear and Bernie Sanders and AOC, and frankly, a handful, I can name other Democrats who I think are doing it right now. But outside a handful, it just seems like, are you just trying to be like a weaker version of MAGA? Like, are you trying, why are you engaging in these weird MAGA frameworks and Trump talking points on things? Like, just go out there and fight for the people and connect with the people and listen to the people about what they are going through. And Democrats are not doing that. Other than, to me, it's more than a handful. There are Democrats who are doing it right. I mean, I love this Bernie Sanders Fight the Oligarchy tour that they're doing, where they're going to Altoona and they're going to Warren, Michigan, and they're going
But the problem with guys like Bernie Sanders, first of all, some of his positions are very extreme.
I'll debate that with you. We're going to have a debate now, but yeah, I don't mean to cut you off.
Very, very extreme. And I'm going to tell you one thing before we go to break. Problem, he's old and he doesn't project strength. It's funny because Trump is older, but somehow or another, Trump has convinced people that he is strong, that fight, the whole bullshit with the potential assassination and so on. Bernie Sanders is more like, he's a good man and he wants to do right, but he doesn't project strength. That's the problem. There are a handful of Democrats that need to turn it up. Get up out there like the Jamie Raskin, like an Eric Swalwell, guys who are young, who have, they're vibrant, and they get up there and they really, just like here on Political Beatdown, they put the beat down onto the Republican ideology. That's what they need to do. Bernie Sanders is a wonderful man. He really, truly wants to do great things for this country. It's just not the right messenger. He's got the right message, but the wrong messenger.
I couldn't be more in disagreement with what you're saying.
Let's see what the 12,000 people that are with us right now. You agree?
Trust me.
Do you think Chuck Schumer shows strength? You think Bernie Sanders is showing strength?
That's like saying the heads versus tails. I mean, those are two opposite things. Yes, I think Bernie Sanders is showing strength. He's going into red states, talking to working people. He's always done that. And there's always been this bullshit narrative around him that he's not strong enough. He is. The people want Bernie. They trust me. The people, the working class connects to him. And then he's always being told by corporate.
I guess I'm wrong here because our audience loves Bernie. By the way, I'm going to say it as well. What did you hear me say about Bernie? I think Bernie has the right message. He's just the wrong messenger. That's the way I see it.
But it's been, look, and I think you're approaching it from a position of good faith. I do. But I also but I do think that there is this narrative out there that's like saying, and I'm not suggesting this is a one-to-one comparison, but you know what? LeBron James, he's just not a good basketball player. Like, he's just not good. And it's like, and he's just weak and he whines all the time. And it's like, what are you talking? Are you watching the scorecard? Like, he actually is. And to me, with Bernie, he's always been kind of framed into, I think, kind of what you're saying. Like, he's not the right messenger. It's this, he's missing that. But when you see his rallies, the people have always been, no, we like this. This is how you fight. He's listening to us. He understands us. He gets us. And by the way, the other person who I think is strong is who I interviewed, is Governor Beshear of Kentucky.
Agreed.
And I think he's got a big future. But to me, when I'm seeing these Bernie rallies and these Bernie events, at least in my view, that's the height of strength to me. But we could debate it more. I want to remind everybody to hit subscribe here. Let's get to 5 million. Subscribe to audio Political Beatdown wherever it's available. Subscribe to the Mea Culpa podcast, the blue one.
Let's go. I put in a lot of time into this thing. I think people will absolutely enjoy it.
Patreon.com/Political Beatdown, patreon.com/Political Beatdown. Next week, Cohen, you and I will do another meeting. We did one last week. We'll do one kind of every other week. I really enjoy those meetings with everybody. Let's take our first. We have only one quick break today. We'll be right back after this message.
So we're a month into the new year and things are already getting stressful. Family, the job, life. Maybe you're in search of something to help you take charge of your life and, most importantly, with full mental clarity. Enhance February by embracing CBD with VIA to experience the powerful benefits of hemp without the high. Trusted by over 500,000 happy customers, VIA is the Swiss Army knife of wellness. It's dedicated to harnessing the natural benefits of hemp to create high-quality wellness products. VIA's collection of THC-free products combines minor cannabinoids like CBD, CBG, and CBN with botanical supplements for targeted effects that you can actually feel. So whether you're looking to improve your sleep, focus, or relief, VIA has something for you. Now, let me tell you, I've tried the THC-free gummies. I do that for sleep. And let me tell you, and anyone who knows me knows that I've had sleep issues my entire life. I mean, for God's sakes, 4 a.m. wake-ups, they just don't cut it when you're my age. I mean, where in God's name has this product been my entire life? VIA, it's also well known for their award-winning THC-free gummies, vapes, THCA flower, soothing topicals, and calming drops. All crafted with the highest quality hemp sourced from trusted, independently owned American farms. And the best part? VIA legally ships to nearly all states in the U.S. in discreet packaging directly to your door with a worry-free guarantee. And no medical card is required. So let me share some points about VIA, and I want to count them off. The first, it's an industry leader with over 500,000 customers served. 2, made in the USA, farmed and crafted with care right here in the United States. 3, award-winning service where you can experience their top-notch customer support. 4, quality ingredients sourced from the finest hemp for your peace of mind and lab tested and certified. And finally, affordable and accessible premium products that will fit your budget. So if you're 21 and older, check out the link to VIA in our description and use code BEAT, that's BEAT, to receive 15% off. And if you're new to VIA, you're going to get a free gift of your choice. So after your purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. So please help to support our show and tell them that I sent you. This year, enhance your everyday with VIA. You know, it's funny how someone who doesn't even have a cat is doing an ad for a cat company. A short time ago, I received this massive box filled with food and a bunch of toys. So what did I do? I took it over to my neighbor who I know has a cat. And she told me that she heard of this company and was eager to try it out on her cat, Marlo. Now, since then, it's nothing but Smalls for Marlo. So if you have a cat, if you love your cat, you should check out our next sponsor, Smalls. And as a listener of this show, if you have a cat, go now to get 50% off your first order plus free shipping. So head to smalls.com and use our promo code BEAT. Smalls cat food. It's protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free ingredients that you'd find in your refrigerator, and it's delivered right to your door. That's why Cats.com named Smalls their best overall cat food. And I can attest to something here, that Marlo prefers Smalls way more than his previous cat food. I mean, my neighbor told me that they did a taste test. They put 2 bowls side by side, and Marlo immediately went to Smalls and ignored the other. Still not a believer in Smalls? Let me tell you, New York Magazine called Smalls, and I quote, the best cat food, according to veterinarians. And BuzzFeed, they said, and I quote, my cats went completely ballistic for this stuff, just like my neighbor. Plus, my neighbor also said that her cat's breath is much better, and so is his fur. I mean, seriously, who wants a cat with halitosis? I mean, who wants to be embarrassed in the park or when Marlo has a play date? Plus, Smalls also has a bunch of amazing treats and snacks that you can add to your order. So after switching to Smalls, get a load of this. 88% of cat owners reported overall health improvements. I mean, that's a real big deal. And have a particularly picky cat? Smalls has a sampler so that your cat can try out everything Small has to offer. And the team at Smalls, they're so confident that your cat will love their product that you can try it risk-free. That means that they'll refund you if your cat won't eat their food. So what are you waiting for? Give your cat the food that they deserve. Head to smalls.com and use promo code BEAT at checkout for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. I mean, that's the best offer you'll find, but you have to use my code BEAT for 50% off your first order. One last time. That's promo code BEAT for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. Go now.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Oh, Cohen, I was talking about those headlines that are out there about the economy before the break, and then we ended up talking about a few other things. I just want to show, I mean, you don't need these headlines to know that this is kind of where the country's at, but you have the Trump secretary says there are no guarantees about a recession hitting. We've got other headlines like Trump has pummeled America to the edge of recession. It could destroy his dreams. The president is executing a grand plan to reshape U.S., even if it crushes the markets. From CNN or from Fortune, Wall Street's recession odds are starting to look like a coin flip as Trump refuses to back down on his trade war. CNN Business retail sales came in weaker than expected. Another bad sign for the economy. And Cohen, you've got the Fox propaganda machine and the Trump regime, using these stats of like wholesale egg prices to say that the price of eggs is down dramatically. And then they have their MAGA influencers. I mean, it's just Kim Jong-un shit. I mean, all this stuff is like just like total lies. I mean, you've got the official Trump War Room account goes, excellent. The price of eggs right now, it's $3.45 a dozen. It's down half. And then Fox takes these, go back to the Fox graphic before Salty. And Fox then uses these graphics and go, it was $8.05. Now it's $3.45. But I mean, take a look at what Congressmember Lou posted. This is what my grocery store looks like. I don't know what your grocery stores look like, but it ain't $3.45. As Congressmember Lou goes, went to 2 grocery stores today. Neither had eggs. They're not there. They're not in the I can't buy eggs right now. Here, put it back up one more time. Congressmember Lou then says in that post, what's the administration and Republicans doing about rising egg prices, about the lack of eggs? Nothing. In fact, the administration, just call them a regime, is making things worse by firing inspectors and scientists working on the bird flu. It reminds me of, like, remember with COVID, like a miracle, it's all going to go away. Stop the testing, and if you don't test, it doesn't exist. So that data, if you look into it, like, where are they getting these numbers from? It comes from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and Trump appointed his lackey. That's that lady who said that Americans need to get chickens and like own chickens to make the eggs in your backyard. And so it's coming from them. And I will tell you, it says the average, you see the wholesale, not the retail price. The average wholesale price is $4.15 per dozen, is what they're claiming. But one, I think their numbers are bullshit. But that's what can you trust the Trump numbers on anything at this point? But I know what I freaking see. I know when I go to my grocery store what it is. And this is what pisses me off.
This is the problem. They lie. They get all of their surrogates to lie. They get their media their media ecosystem to lie. And despite the fact that you, the consumer, go to the grocery store and know exactly how much you're paying, you acknowledge that what Trump is saying is a lie. But there's 77 million fucking people in America right now whose eyes are closed, even though they go to the goddamn grocery store and they see it's $10, $9 a dozen. All right. They see it for themselves. $9 in Colorado. They see it for themselves, but they turn around and they're like, no. If Trump says that the price of eggs has gone down to $3.49 a dozen, it's got to be $3.49. But a schmuck, you just paid $10 for the dozen. Explain that to me. Then they go into a whole tirade how you're just a left-wing communist maniac, who just wants to destroy Trump. I don't get it. I truly, truly don't get it. Nobody's saying that you have to believe anything that you read or anything that you see on television. But shouldn't you believe when you're reaching into your pocket and you take out a $10 bill and you pay $10 for a dozen eggs, don't you know for yourself? You cannot explain to these people. My only hope, truly, for our country to be able to take control back is for these, or a large swath of that 77 million, to turn around and to economically feel it themselves, to the point that they can't even lie to themselves any longer, where mom and dad can no longer pay for either their insulin or their food. And if they can't pay for their insulin, then they can't pay for their food. They're going to have to use the money to pay for rent or electricity or for gasoline or whatever it is. That's the whole problem. The country right now is going south. And until it ultimately affects them, like what we're seeing with the deportations, when now Venezuelan communities, large Venezuelan communities, for example, in Miami, Florida, have buyer's remorse, where a ton of steel workers, union workers, regarding now the tariffs for steel and aluminum, have buyer's remorse. Until they feel it themselves, then and only then will they ultimately come back to a party that makes sense. And that's why I say the next election, the next general election, you need somebody young, you need somebody vibrant, you need somebody strong who could project strength that actually has the ability within which to go toe to toe with this Republican maniac ecosystem.
Part of what's keeping, though, I think a lot of people who are MAGA people supporting Donald Trump is that, they're being told by everyone they're watching that this is the pain that is normal and natural in a part of a broader plan, and that you need to suffer now. This is what normally happens at the beginning of administrations, and don't worry, this is just normal stuff. And remember, those same propaganda networks, when things were actually on doing better under former President Biden, they were being told how disastrous the world is falling apart. Biden and the deep state are doing all of these things when they weren't. And now the Trump regime is doing them. So a lot of the Trump supporters are like, oh, now our guy's doing them. Biden did this, and now our guy's doing it to help us. And it's like, no, Biden wasn't doing that. There's not George Soros this, but Elon Musk is a real thing. Elon Musk is really doing this, not the Soros boogeyman so that y'all can be anti-Semitic and try to blame it on a Jewish banker. No, Elon Musk from South Africa is the one, who's doing this. And Cohen, here's another example of just like how do you continue to fall victim to the Trump Ponzi scheme or rug pull? Trump said peace in Ukraine, 24 hours. It would be easy, he said. He can get it done before. So he doesn't do it. Things actually escalate in Ukraine. His first plan, Trump's first plan in his deal, as Trump sees it and Putin sees it, is that Trump basically seizes or steals Ukraine's minerals and takes that and puts it in his own sovereign wealth fund that he wants to create to build Trump everything. And you kind of carve it out, where then Putin gets half Ukraine, and I guess Trump in his own mind gets the minerals, and then that's the solution as Trump saw it. Well, Zelensky stood up to him, Canada stood up to him, Europe stands up to him, Australia and others stand up to him. So he doesn't get what he wants there. So then he starts to flail a little bit, blame Zelensky. We're now in late March, no peace in Ukraine. Trump and Putin have a conversation today where Trump says he's going to get this ceasefire done. He's going to call Putin. This should be easy. Putin's at a meeting with oligarchs earlier in the day, right before the call. Putin keeps Trump waiting. And then someone asks Putin, hey, aren't you supposed to have that call with Trump? And Putin says, ha, 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 he can wait for me. And then the crowd laughs at it. He then gets on the call with Trump. And what they talk about is Donald Trump in today's conversation supports Putin's idea of organizing hockey games in the U.S. and Russia between Russian and American players competing in the NHL and the KHL as per TASS, T-A-S-S, which is the Russia propaganda network. As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, goes, he still hasn't ended the war in 24 hours like he promised, but apparently he's setting up hockey games with the guy who was murdering civilians, torturing prisoners, and kidnapping children. So then Donald Trump posts on social media, this was a great call. We talked about ending the war. We talked about what's going to get done. There's going to be an immediate ceasefire on all energy and infrastructure. And as Max Seddon, who covers this, says, it's like Trump and Putin are describing two entirely different calls. The Kremlin readout makes it clear that Putin did not agree to Trump's proposal for a 30-day unconditional ceasefire, which Ukraine did, and Russia has not moved at all on its maximalist goals. And then you read Russia's printout of what went down. And it talks about Putin stressed that Russia's key condition to stop the conflict from escalating and moving towards settlement would be a total end to foreign military support and intelligence sharing with Kyiv. Ukraine thinks that any deal like this would leave it vulnerable to future attack. Any deal must take into account the unconditional necessity to remove the initial reasons for the crisis and Russia's legal security interest, which is basically code for ending Ukraine's independence and the post-Cold War security architecture in Europe. As Putin calls it, the reasons for the war in Putin's mind is that Ukraine exists. So basically, Putin's claim to Trump is, we'll settle if you get rid of Ukraine. And Trump's like, look what we've negotiated, a great deal, huh? And Cohen, it's just like you go back to his supporters. Now, where have they moved? Now they're all just like, oh, what a great deal he made. This is what we wanted. It's like, what? At what level? At what point are you like?
Well, they're not really saying that. What they're saying right now is that, you know, Trump inherited a shit sandwich from the Biden administration, and so, you know, it's much worse than what we even thought. Because anytime something goes wrong, whether it's going to be egg prices, gasoline prices, whether it's going to be the economy, they're even blaming the economy now. Imagine that, which is it's directly correlated to the tariffs and so on. That's a Biden leftover. It's the result of the terrible administration that was run under Team Biden, which is absolutely inaccurate. I mean, this is the crazy, and it's very difficult to pull them out of this cult. What will pull them out of the cult? When they don't have $3 to rub together. They don't have money to pay for kids' food. They don't have money for gas. They don't have money for rent and so on. And then they're all of a sudden turning around and saying, wait, what happened to I was going to be doing better under this administration? Where are my cheap gas prices? Where is my cheap food prices? Where is everything that this guy promised me? Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And what Democrats have to do, they have to pick themselves up. They have to do like what so many of the Democrats are doing right now, town halls. Go into the red areas and sit there and explain to them. You're going to get booed. You're going to get heckled. You're going to get everything. But maybe, just maybe, 1 or 2 or 10 people, if you're lucky, will actually listen to what you're saying and understand that you are being conned. You're being conned by a group of people who are economically taking advantage of this country day in and day out, that they are hurting you. They are hurting your family. They are hurting future generations. And if we don't stand up right now, there will be nothing left to stand up to.
Two-finger salute. So
you have to remind me, I'm blanking on his name, Republican from Tennessee, that ended up fighting this morning on CNN with John Burchett.
Congressmember Burchett?
Yes, Tim Burchett from Tennessee. In my whole life, I never met anybody more disrespectful, more foolish, more in the camp of Trumpism and this MAGA cult. Didn't make a difference what John Berman was asking. And I'm not a fan of John Berman's either, by the way. But it didn't make a difference. He wanted to ask him not about whether or not we should be deporting, again, you know, these MS-13 gang members and so on, but rather whether or not it's in violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution, whether or not it violates other constitutional rights of due process. And he didn't want to hear any of it. All he wanted to do is go through the 10 talking points of the day that they receive on a daily basis. Okay? And for that, Tim, I find you one of the stupidest assholes that I had the displeasure of waking up early and watching on television today. And for that, my friend, you deserve the two-finger salute.
One of the things I think that's worth mentioning is that actually, if you go through the issues, America's not all that divided, if you think about it. where people stand on tax policy, common sense gun reform, climate change, even immigration policy, where people stand on living wage, where people stand on a host of these issues, on our democracy, on the court system, on tariffs, on oligarchy versus workers, on unions. If you just go down the list, go look at some of the polling on the issues, not the politicians. 65, 70% of Americans support positions that are kind of, yes, people want a better climate and they don't want to have pollution, right? People want workers to have a living wage, not have people work multiple jobs. People want health care. They want access to education. People want to have jobs where they can work with dignity. People want comprehensive immigration reform. They recognize that you need to have borders. They also recognize that there are a lot of migrants who should have a path to citizenship because they're contributing to the economy. And then there are also bad people who need to be deported and dealt with very seriously. People are on these issues, so how can we be such a divided country where actually on the issues, people kind of coalesce around them? And to me, that's actually the problem of, you talked about what went down on CNN. Like, what did they even get of platforming a guy like Burchett? He pissed
What
you
did
off.
you think? Right? What did you think he was going to say? I'm with you, Ben.
What was the objective? And now for Burchett, he goes to his MAGA crew and he gets rewarded because then he goes on Hannity.
Yeah,
Look, I see what I did. Yeah,
dude, I put John Berman in his place. Fuck CNN.
Right. And that was his goal. And then you have the guy like Jennings and whatever that, those wacky panels they have on CNN at night where it's like a Royal Rumble and they all like yell at each other. And, you don't understand the issues. And so, people who watch it just start rooting for a team, right? You like root for it the way you would root for the Yankees over the Red Sox or the Red Sox over the Yankees or you start rooting for a team. And you start forgetting about yourself, your community, your country, the Constitution. And to me, fundamentally, that's at the core of the problem that we're trying to deconstruct at this network, at Political Beatdown. It's a beatdown of that politics as usual. It's a beatdown of the corporate system that has enabled a situation where so many people are literally voting against their unions and themselves and their loved ones and their education and their ability to get health care or keep their Medicaid or Social Security. It's wild to me. And so I give that so we know what the fight's ahead. We remain clear-eyed in what we need to do. And we also have hope that if you can focus people back on the issues and away from the distortion and the propaganda, there's hope. It's going to be hard, but there's hope. And, hope springs eternal. And we don't just have our hopium here. We have our action.
We need more than hope, Ben. We need to be vigilant. Mm-hmm. We need to be informed. We need to be active. We need to go in to the communities that see things, unfortunately, with the rose-colored glasses on. And we need to set them straight by explaining to them their own finances, their own family, their own issues. The fact that, yes, everybody should have universal health care. Everybody should have it. If you have so much money that you want to pay for extra, fuck you, do it. Knock yourself out. But everybody should have. And these are the things that we need to go back, grassroots, and we need to talk to these people. And the way CNN is doing it, as you just said, it's not working.
Someone said to me, Ben, please interview Bernie Sanders. To that I say, stay tuned.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. This is Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Patreon.com/Political Beatdown. Go and check it out. It's a great place where Michael and I host Zoom meetings a few times a month. We'd love to have you at the next one. We don't have outside investors, so it helps grow this independent media platform. Check it out, patreon.com/Political Beatdown. Also, check out Michael Cohen's other podcast, When We're Not Together. Cohen goes solo on Mea Culpa, but he has great guests. Mea Culpa Blue, wherever podcasts are available. Search for it. You see it right there. Michael Cohen's got a great Substack. We've got a great Substack as well. So search Cohen Substack, search the Midas Touch Substack, subscribe here on our YouTube channel right here. And thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you. Oh, thank you to those pro-democracy sponsors. The discount codes for them are in the description below. So check out those sponsors as well. Thanks, everybody, for watching Political Beatdown. Great debates, great discussion, great audience. Now let's go out there and make a difference. Shout out Beatdown Brigader. Shout out Midas Mighty.
Boom.